All right, so let's review for your geometry quiz. All right, so let's take a look at number 1 here, right? So they're telling us there's points A, B, and C, and they're all on the same line, right? Point B is between A and C, and we need to solve for X, right? So in geometry, whenever they don't give you a picture, I think it really helps if we draw a picture to make sense of the information, right? So you can just make a simple sketch, right? And then we know that there's 3 points. We know that B is in between A and C, right? So you can just put it anywhere. So B we know is in between A and C, right? And then now they give us information that we're going to label on the diagram. So BC is 8. So BC we know this length here is 8, right? AB we know is 2x minus 19. Okay, and they're telling us AC, so this whole length here, from A all the way to C, they're telling us AC is x plus 1. Okay, so using the idea of segment addition postulate that we learned, right? So if we take AB and we add, right, BC, it's going to equal the whole thing, which is AC, right? If we look at the picture, right, if you take this part here, and then you add this part here, it's going to give you this whole thing, right? So that's how we're going to set up our equation. So we know that 2x minus 19 plus 8 is equal to AC, which is x plus 1. Then we just do the algebra. So 2x, negative 19, and 8, that's going to give us negative 11 is equal to x plus 1. Now we just minus x on this side, minus x, add 11, add 11. That's gone. So we're going to end up with x is equal to 12. Okay, now make sure you always go back to the question. They're asking us solve for x. All right, we found out what x is, so we're done. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at number 2 here. So we need to solve for x again. This time they give us the picture, so it's actually kind of easier, right? You don't even need to draw it. So once again, we know that if we take a look at the picture, if we take this part here, right, WV, and then we add VU, it's going to give you the whole thing, right? So if we take WV and we add VU, it's going to equal the whole segment, which is going to be WU. So WV we know is 8. VU we know is 3x minus 6. And the whole length, all right, the whole segment, WU, they could tell us is 5x minus 6. All right, then we're just going to simplify and solve for x. So we'll get 3x plus 2 is equal to 5x minus 6. All right, I'll minus 3x here, minus 3x here. Add 6 here, add 6 here. So that's gone. We get 8 is equal to 2x divided by 2. 4 is going to equal x. Okay? And we're solving for x, so we finished the problem. Okay? All right, so number 3 here. So this time, we're not just finding x. They want us to find, all right, the length of RS. Okay? So in order to do that, first we need to find x. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the picture. So using the picture, we know that RS plus ST is going to equal the whole length, which is RT. Well, RS we know is 9 plus X, plus ST we know is X plus 15, and the whole length, all right, they tell us is 12. So RT is 12. And then let's combine like terms on the left side here. X and X gives us 2x plus 9 and 15. That gives us a positive 24. It's equal to 12. So let's solve for x. That's gone. We get 2x is equal to negative 12. Divide by 2. Negative 6. All right, but you have to be careful. Remember, we're not just trying to find x for this problem. We're trying to find out what RS is. So we have to take the x, plug it into rs. All right, so this is rs right here. So we know that rs is equal to 9 plus x, and we just found out x is -6. So rs is equal to 9 plus -6. So we know rs is equal to +3. And that'll be your answer. Okay. All right, so number 4 here. Number 4, we're trying to find the distance between 2 points. Right, between these 2 points here. So if you recall the distance formula, right, it was the one with the big square root. So this is the one where we just subtract the x's, right, square them. Then we're going to add, and we subtract the y's, and we square them. Right, so that's all we're going to do. Now remember I told you the order that you subtract the x's, it actually doesn't even matter. Okay? So it doesn't even matter the order that you subtract these x's, right? x1, x2. So it's up to you. You could do -5 minus -4, or you could do -4 minus -5. So the order that you subtract the x's doesn't matter. So that's for you to decide. So I'll just go -4 minus, because that's in the equation right here, and then -5 squared, right, plus, then over here the y's, right, we go 7 minus 1. Okay, so remember that a negative gives you positive here. So -4 plus 5, that will give you 1 squared, which is going to be 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So we get the square root of 37. Right, and 37 is a prime number. You can't simplify that, so your answer would just stay like that. Okay. All right, let's take a look at number 5 here. All right, so number 5, we're finding midpoint, right? So we've got to use the midpoint formula. Now, if you recall, we need to find the midpoint. If we have 2 points, basically all you're doing is you're just adding up the x's, divide by 2, you add up the y's, divide by 2, and that'll give you the coordinates of the midpoint, right? So the x's here, I'm just going to add them up, divide by 2. So if I'm trying to find the midpoint, right, 12 plus -6 divided by 2, that'll give me the x value, right, of the midpoint. Then if I want to find the y coordinate, the y value of the midpoint, I just take the y's, -7 plus -11, divide that by 2. And I work it out. So 12 plus -6, what's that going to give me? I end up with 6 divided by 2, so I end up with 3, right? Over here, I get -18 over 2, I end up with -9. So the coordinates of my midpoint will be 3, -9. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at number 6 here. Now we have the midpoint, right? We're trying to find the midpoint of this line segment. So they give us this graph. So the first thing you need to do is you need to find the coordinates of these endpoints. Okay, so let's find the coordinates of these endpoints. It looks like this one here. That's going to be -1, +4. And the one down here, it looks like this one's going to be -4, -1. So those the x and y values are the coordinates of the 2 endpoints. Okay. So now since we're finding the midpoint, we have these coordinates. We just use the midpoint formula. So we're trying to find the midpoint, right? So we take the x's, -1, right? So I'm taking the x's, -1, and then the other x plus -4, and I divide that by 2. So that gives me the x values, right? All right, the x value of the midpoint. So let's work that out real quick. That's -5 over 2. So I know for my midpoint, the x value is -5 over 2. Now, I want to find the y value. So I take the y's and I add them up. So 4 plus -1 divided by 2. So I end up with 3 over 2. Right? And these are the x and y values of my midpoint, right? Now you could keep your answers improper, that's fine. Just make sure you always reduce your fractions. Or you could change these to mixed numbers. So this is equivalent to -2.5, right? And 1.5. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this last example here. So this scenario is a little bit different. We need to find the other endpoint, right? And they actually give us the midpoint and one of the endpoints. So like I did in class, I would draw a picture of this just to make sense of it. So we know one endpoint, the coordinates are -3 and -13, right? We actually don't know the other endpoint. We're trying to find that. Let's just call it x and y. And they actually give us the midpoint. We know the midpoint, so we know the coordinates of the midpoint. It's -7 and -5. So now just plug the values into the midpoint formula. Well, before, remember, if we want to find the x value of the midpoint, right? If you want to find the x value of the midpoint, you would take the x's right here, right? You would add them up. So -3 plus x, right? Because we don't know what this x value is. And we divide it by 2. When you work this out, it's supposed to give you the, right, the x value of the midpoint. Well, the x value of the midpoint we know is -7. Right, and then let's do the work. Multiply both sides by 2. -3 plus x is going to equal -14. All right, add 3 on both sides. Over here, the y values, we have, take the y values, we have -13 plus y divided by 2, and this should give you the y value of the midpoint, -5. Multiply both sides by 2. That's gone. -13 plus y is going to equal -10. Add 13 on both sides. So then we know that the coordinates of this endpoint right here, right? So x is -11 and y is +3. Okay? This is your answer right